Okay. Welcome everyone to the Planning Advisory Committee public meeting Thursday, March 27th, 2025. We will call the meeting to order. The time is 5:30 p.m. We'll now proceed with item number 2, approval of the agenda. The motion reads that the agenda for the Planning Advisory Committee meeting of March 27th, 2025 be accepted as presented. Do I have a mover? Mayor Shankar, seconder, Councillor Burton. All in favor? Motion carried. Are there any declarations of interest this evening? Seeing none, we'll move along. Item 4 is a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. I have a recommendation that the Planning Advisory Committee minutes dated February 10th, 2025 be accepted as presented. May I have a mover? Councillor Burton, and a seconder, Mayor Shankar. All in favor? Motion is carried. Item 5.1 is PIC Report 03-2025 regarding a signed bylaw variance request for 1000 Edward Street. Our Chief Building Official, Manager of Building and Bylaw, Sean Merriman, will speak to the report. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the recommendation is to the Planning Advisory Committee recommend to Council that they allow a bylaw, a variance to the signed bylaw to section 9.1.
Could you actually refer to the revised one that's in the agenda package?
I'm sorry, I didn't get a copy of the agenda package. Just give me a second. Sorry about that, guys.
That's okay. Do I have it here?
Oh, no, that's right.
No? Okay.
My glasses on, yeah. At least it's at the beginning. Okay, the Planning Advisory, excuse me, starting again, Madam Chair. So that the Planning Advisory Committee grant a variance to section 9.1 of the building, the sign bylaw 16-2019 for the proposed ground sign of 1000 Edward Street, Prescott, which is the high school, to permit a sign with a height of 4.5 meters, which is 14'9", and a face dimension of 2.8 meters, which is 9'3", because the general intent and the purpose of the bylaw are maintained. So an application came in to replace the sign at the front of the high school. And a review of the file and the sign bylaw determined that the request did not comply with the bylaw and that a variance is required to allow the use of this sign. Section 9.1 of the bylaw states that one ground sign per frontage may be erected between the building line and to the lot line, provided it's not higher than 2.5 meters, which is 8'2", and no ground sign shall exceed 2.5 meters, which is again 8'2", like the face of it, and no part of the sign encroaches onto or over public owned lands. The proposed new sign is 4.5 meters in height and has a face dimension of 2.8 meters. So the face dimension is fairly close, but the height is almost double. The sign is electronic in nature, but however, the applicant has confirmed that the messaging is controlled for brightness, coloring, and speed, that the message is changed or held static. Meaning that if there was a complaint about it being a distraction, they could adjust it so that it would no longer be a distraction. And like I say, that the actual sign itself is more pixelated in nature versus like a TV medium. Do you know what I'm saying? Like instead of looking like a TV screen, it looks more like a computer screen in relation to pixelated. The sign is being located in the exact same location as the current sign, and it has received an MTO permit to allow the sign to be installed. So I provided a couple of overviews of the school, and then I blew in a little closer. If you take a look at the tree there by the highway, you can kind of see the edge of the sign just beyond the sidewalk that goes into the school. It was circulated to all the town departments, and to date, no departments have expressed concerns. Under section 3.6 of the bylaw, it states that the committee planning advisory may, upon application of any person, authorize variances from the bylaw if, in the opinion of the committee, the general intent and the purpose of this zoning bylaw were maintained. When there's a variance requested, the whole purpose is to evaluate to determine if it meets the general intent. In many respects, this bylaw's intent is determined by what's the impact on the community. And you consider the impact by considering the public safety as it relates. It shouldn't affect their driving ability or safe navigation on the road. From an aesthetics point of view, no sign should diminish the overall curb appeal of a property or the general aesthetics of a community. A lot different up at the school than it is like if you were putting a sign in the middle of a residential neighborhood. In this case, the new sign is replacing a similar sign, and no report said it was a distraction had been received by the town, so the other sign never caused a problem. Although the sign is larger than the original sign, the actual messaging area is not overwhelmingly bigger in relation to the size of the property, nor the size of the building on the property. So it's not like it's a great big sign in a small property. Given that the property is institutional as its primary use, it lends credence to a larger sign. And if you consider the other commercial activities near the area and you take a look at the large pylon signs, no bigger than any of them. The difference is they were controlled through site plan control, and this one's just going through a sign variance to get to the same spot. So staff conclude that the proposed sign will not have a negative impact on the community, and that it does meet the intent and purpose of the sign bylaw. Alternative, you could always say, no, we're not going to grant the request, but we are recommending that it be approved. And included were the sign details, the site sketch, and the MTO permit as an attachment to prove that they did have the MTO's blessing to put the sign there. And that's usually who gives us the most grief. If they're willing, I'm willing.
Thanks, Sean.
No problem.
Any comments or questions from the committee members?
I do have a question. Sean, I wasn't aware that we had to get MTO approval for those signs.
Yeah, it's within 375 or 95 meters of the intersection. So what's funny is the long-term care home is just inside it, and this is just in it.
I have two more. Is the size difference, it just says it's bigger, is it much bigger? And did the old sign conform to the bylaw?
Well, in fairness, the old sign was put in before this bylaw was in place, and the old bylaw before that was interesting, so I won't say if it conformed or not.
Okay.
The actual messaging area isn't much, but it is much taller. It's getting a little bit higher up in the air and stuff like that, but the actual messaging area isn't super bigger.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Burton?
Thank you. I like that we can ask them if it's too bright and too distracting to just calm it down a little bit. So I was a little bit concerned that it would just be, people, because we have traffic lights there as well, right? So I like the fact that if it's too bright and too distracting, that they can tone it down a little bit.
Tone it down and slow it down too. The biggest thing is to slow it down. Like sometimes it's when the message is going too fast, it creates the problem because you're paying so much attention because you don't want to lose track of it.
Right.
Especially when it's bragging about someone's team or whatever and you want to catch it. That's when it causes a problem. But in all honesty, the other one wasn't a problem, and I'm not, like the school board's pretty mellow with the messages that they're putting up there, so.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Welcome. Is there any questions from any member of the public that signed the sign-in sheet? No? Okay, so thank you, everyone. We have a potential recommendation that reads that the Planning Advisory Committee grant a variance to section 9.1 of bylaw 16-2019, being the sign bylaw, for the proposed ground sign at 1000 Edward Street, Prescott, to permit a sign with a height of 4.5 meters, 14 feet, 9 inches, and face dimension of 2.8 meters, which is 9 feet, 3 inches, because the general intent and purpose of the bylaw are maintained. Can I have a mover? Mayor Shankar and a seconder, James Hutchinson. Is there any other additional items? No. Call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Item 5.2 is PAC Report 04-2025 regarding the site plan information for 199 Irvin Road. Our municipal planner, Tim Fisher, who's joining us on Zoom, will speak to this portion of the meeting.
Actually, that's so lovely.
Oh, okay.
Which is not quite sure.
I'm sorry.
And Bill, who is joining us virtually, is a representative of the developer.
Okay.
So I'll take a crack at it and we'll go from there.
Okay.
So the proposed development is on the site is going to be done in 2 phases. So the first is a 2,993.8 square meter grocery store, which we plan is building A. And then later on, there'll be 2 other buildings referred to as B and C, which are on the south portion of the lot. The building A will have 126 parking spaces, 4 barrier-free, 3 family, as well as 4 electrical charging station, and 5 cart corrals and 3 future customer pickup spaces. When we take a look at the other portion of the lot, an additional 16 parking spaces with a cart corral will be on the eastern side of the building, and snow storage for the parking lot will occupy approximately 16 spaces towards the south. Landscaping is proposed along the east and west property lines and the triangular area on the northwest corner of the lot. Vehicular traffic will be coming in from Irvine Road, Edward Street, and Churchill Road. You'll notice that the access from Edward Street is a right in only and a right out only. So that way we're not having cars crossing Edward trying to go into that particular site. When we take a look at building B, which is intended to be about 510 square meters, and building C, which is 537.91 square meters, again, at the south portion of the parking lot. And together they'll have 47 spaces along with 4 barrier-free parking spaces and an additional 9 parking spaces on the north side of the building. Loading space has been identified for each of those as well, those buildings. And certainly from a truck access standpoint for the grocery store, the intention would be they'd be coming off of Irvine. We take a look at the site plan. So you can see certainly building A, a large parking lot to the south, and then phase 2, which is B and C, being running along the southern portion of the property with a parking lot between them. We'll take a look at the landscaping plan. Again, they've identified where trees will be planted, mostly along the northern and southern reaches of the property, as well as portion east and west to the neighboring properties. And there is the phase 1 identification and phase 2. And talking about obviously the neighbors to the north being light industrial, to the east being commercial, southern commercial, and then light industrial to the west as well. This does meet the official plan designation in terms of its land use. And then also from a zoning bylaw provision, any minor variances that were required have already been addressed and dealt with through community investment. And from there, we have received various reports and plans. Some we're still waiting finalization from our peer reviews, but they will be, anything that's outstanding will be addressed prior to signing the final site plan control. And then it obviously lists the various plans that have been received, as well as kind of exactly what those have addressed. We did ask for a traffic impact brief. So talking about truck access and truck negotiation of and navigation of the lot itself, as well as the entrances and exits to the overall. So we do believe, it's well thought out. It conforms to the official plan, conforms to the zoning bylaw as amended. And we're kind of comfortable bringing this forward at this point for any comments or feedback. Just as a reminder, it comes to planning advisory for information, be able to provide any feedback that there might be. We'll come to council on April 7th for information. And then providing any feedback, but certainly the actual signing and the approval of the site plan control agreement is delegated to staff. So we also have Phil Lavely from Ross Bay Development. If you have any questions, you might be able to answer, and I'm going to have to answer anyone that might be outstanding as well. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Matthew. Is there any questions? Dr. Burton?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I may have missed it, Matthew, but the big sign by Edward Street, do they intend to use it or take it down? The old beaches sign?
Oh, the pylon sign that's there right now?
Yes, thank you.
We will. We're going to use that. Yeah, we're going to use it. We'd like to keep it. We're going to refurbish it, clean it up, and but we will use that sign. That sign will remain. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
James?
Yes, Madam Chair, and this question is for Phil. Maybe this is premature, but when you're exiting and entering with the transport loading docks, is there any point at all where they would be blocking the intersection or the access coming into the parking lot off of Irvine? Or I just can't tell from distances here for the transport loading and unloading?
No, they won't. Everything will be done on site. That's why we have there's a sort of to help alleviate any conflicts off-site. We show almost like an apron in behind there, so any big trucks can go over it, and at the same time delineating what's there, separating the loading area from the main drive aisle going in. Yeah.
So just to clarify, there's absolutely zero blockage then when it transports entering and exiting the facility there.
That's correct. Yeah. If you look at the site plan, I think we have some turning templates there as well that we've prepared that would minimize that. That would alleviate that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Phil, for the entrance off of Edward Street, that will be used as an entrance and exit for the grocery store for
Correct. Yes.
customers?
That's right. Yes. Yeah. It'll service the entire site. Both the grocery store and the two buildings at the south end. And it will be right in, right out only.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can just speak to that. So we expect anyone traveling north we'd expect them to turn onto Churchill Road and enter the site that way.
Okay.
Anyone heading south will obviously be in that lane that they need to be and be able to make that right-hand turn in.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Will there be signage for the right in, right out?
Yes. Yeah. On these, if I know it's hard to see, if you look at the site plan, I think it's site plan A1 up in the top right-hand corner. There's almost like a legend of all the signage that's on site. And one of them is a no left turn lane. I'm looking here. The last one on the second row is a no left turn lane, no left turn allowed that it's going to be put just before you leave the site. If you look very, very closely, there's a little arrow and a note saying where the sign is going.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. There,
I do have,
you know,
I think I'm reading this right, Phil. Is the entrance off Churchill the furthest west?
Correct.
Is that-
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Just to the west of Building B.
Yeah, perfect.
Mhm.
Thank you.
are there any other questions? No? Are there any other questions from the public that may have signed the sign-in sheet? No. Okay, thank you everyone for your comments. And as Matthew mentioned, the site plan is for information only, so no recommendation is before us. And we'll just conclude that there's no additional discussion at this time on item 5.2. Item 6 on the agenda, does anyone have any new business they would like to bring forward? Nope. And there are no media present, Matthew. So item 8, adjournment. I have a recommendation that the Planning Advisory Committee meeting be adjourned. The time is 5:50. Do I have a mover? Mayor Shankar, seconder, Councillor Burton, all in favor?